prepared right now by hearing a little bit about it, but you need to know that you're going to use two verbs with passe composé, hence the name composé. It's composed of two parts, and one of which is your auxiliary verb. And all the verbs I have on the screen right now are the verbs that are going to need être when they're put into past tense. The other ones will need avoir. So that's why they've really hammered down the conjugations for être and avoir. That's why they're so important in class, because you're not only going to need them for present tense, and not only are they really common, you also need them to do anything in passe composé. So you guys I can hand you out a list, or you can go to aboutfrench.com and type in the acronym you have here, which is Dr. and Mrs. P. Vandertramp, or sometimes it goes by Dr. Vandertramp. And you type that in on aboutfrench.com, and it will give you all the verbs that are going to need the exception of être as their auxiliary verb. So that's the first step to putting passe composé together, and it's definitely the thing you should think of as you guys are leading into that section. Am I going to use être to do passe composé, or am I going to use avoir? That's always a question you're going to ask yourself. And the verbs with the stars are just verbs that have exceptions. Sometimes you can use avoir when you're putting them in the past tense, but you guys really won't go over that this semester. I just put that there so you're not surprised if you ever see it in the future. Okay. Do you have any questions, Stephanie, about passe composé? Feel free to type it in. Okay. So just going over the basic form, once again, it's not super important that you guys know it. But as I said, your first step is always to choose the auxiliary verb. Step one is it avoir or être. Then you conjugate the auxiliary verb, so avoir or être, to the subject of the sentence. So if your subject was je and our auxiliary verb was avoir, we would have j'ai. Then step three is you form the verb which you want to go into the past tense with its past participle. So all of the ER verbs have a specific past participle. The RE verbs have a specific past participle, and the IR verbs have a specific past participle, just like they have those regular verb endings. So kind of see how that kind of goes together in the language. So for example, if you want to say, I spoke French, that first example there on the slide, parler would need a past participle, and then you would need the auxiliary verb avoir. So we get j'ai parlé français instead of parler français or je parle français. And then you can see the two verbs next to each other, but conjugated differently. Then again, when you see that, you see two verbs, they're composed together, passe composé. So you can put those two ideas together. And then the next example uses a verb that requires être when it's put into past tense, or passe composé, and you get je suis allé. So the other important thing to remember about être when it's being used in passe composé, you have to make your verb with the past participle agree to the gender and number of the subject. So just like you guys do for adjectives. So je suis allé could be with two E's because your speaker could be a female, or they could be a male, which would mean you just leave that one E on the end with the accent. So do you guys have a guess as to what the past participle is for ER verbs, since aller is an ER verb and parler is an ER verb? So it's what gets added on to the verb to show that it's in passe composé. That's what the past participle is. Accent aigu, because it's going up. And the one that goes down the other way is accent grave, like towards the grave. Yeah, so that's the past participle. You're exactly right for ER verbs. So you chop off the E and R in the infinitive, so parler was P-A-R-L-E, or sorry, P-A-R-L-E-R. So you're cutting off that ER and just adding the E with the accent aigu, just like Kyle said. And then for RE verbs, you'd be cutting off the RE and adding a U. And for IR verbs, you just cut off the R. So you, for example, finir is an IR verb, and that would change to fini. And perdre is an RE verb, that would change to perdu. But just like everything else in French, there's always exceptions, so you have to be aware.